So the question is, how do we start this podcast? Because we don't even know what it's called yet. Hello, welcome everyone. This is AMS on the air. We're ready to podcast with the AMS about all things weather, water, and climate. I'm Jeff Rosenfeld. I'm here with Irene Sands and Dakota Smith.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to our intro episode 0, where we'll tell you a little bit about ourselves and the show.
So, Jeff, who are you and why are you podcasting about the weather?
So I'm Jeff Rosenfeld, and I'm happy to be on this podcast because AMS has a lot to say to a lot of people, and it's about time we got started with it. So I'm the editor of the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society, which is the membership magazine. But mostly I'm just what you'd say somebody who loves the weather and loves talking about it. Most of all, loves to see what other people have to say about it, because it's amazing what AMS members do have to say about it. Irene, tell us a little about yourself and why you're podcasting about the weather.
I am Irene Sands. Currently, I'm a digital meteorologist in Florida, and I am a proud member of the AMS for several years. I started in pretty much college, and now I'm involved in several boards and just the networking that's done on the society. It's just incredible. And the more I get involved with it, the more I love it and the more I want to be involved. So this podcast is great. We're bringing 2018 into the AMS, and this goes great with the 100th anniversary.
And last but not least, Dakota.
So my name is Dakota Smith, and I love weather. I think like all three of us, I'm pretty much obsessed with weather. And so that's how I got into the American Meteorological Society. I went to my first meeting freshman year. I guess that was 2011. And I've been to everyone since then except for Phoenix. So I'm excited for Phoenix in 2019. And I host a podcast called The Weather Junkies, which is a lot of fun. And I'll never forget, Jeff, we sat down at dinner in Seattle in 2017 at the 97th annual meeting, and Bob Henson kind of gathered all these people together. And I sat down next to you, and I knew who you were, but I didn't recognize you completely. And you introduced yourself, and I think one of the first things I said is, you guys should have a podcast. And here we are. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and you were right. Definitely something we wanted to do, but knowing that you were out there interested, Dakota, made all the difference. And getting to know Irene right now is also part of this process, because I'm finding all the talents that you guys bring to this make something happen that couldn't happen otherwise. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think one of the things that AMS really needs a podcast for is kind of to live up to this whole sense that we can do better as communicators. So maybe we should talk a little bit about how this theme for the podcast evolved, at least for the initial episodes that we've got planned.
So coming off of AMS 2018, the theme was transforming communication in the weather, water, and climate enterprise, focusing on challenges facing our sciences. A lot of the big town halls, the big talks were focused on this problem of communication, effective communication in our field. And we sat down with probably around 20 communicators and scientists in our field to talk about this overall theme and dive into some of the weird parts, some of the challenging parts of communication in weather.
The interesting thing about sitting down with all these different people, it's just that we're bringing a different side to the weather world. We sat down with the people that are solely part of the AMS. We sat down with the communicators that are not necessarily full-blown scientists, but they have a passion for communication. And I think that being in the meteorology world, it's challenging. So I think a podcast is very easy to listen to, and to get tips, especially in our field that continues to evolve pretty much every day.
Just watching the field as it's evolved over the last, I don't know, more than a decade that I guess I've been a hanger on here. Since my early days at Weatherwise magazine, I've been really, really interested in how the communication theme keeps coming up more and better in more sophisticated ways. Early on, I mean, my first AMS meetings, there were definitely master communicators there because there were broadcasters and it was and teachers, and AMS made a real effort, even starting obviously in the 1950s and earlier, to get good communicators involved in the community. But that really took off with the AMS education program, and in the 1990s, the introduction of these really enthusiastic teachers who came from middle schools and elementary schools, high schools, to the AMS meeting and actually interacted with the scientists. It opened a lot of eyes to how scientists could really benefit from the practices that they were learning from teachers. They could benefit from letting their hair down a little bit and talking with the kind of enthusiasm they heard teachers speak with, and just gathering the ideas and the enthusiasm alone was fantastic. And meanwhile, the teachers, of course, were coming away with all sorts of ideas about the science that they couldn't get otherwise. They had access to something really first class in terms of the scientific presentations and things, and they brought that to their classrooms. So this interaction was, for me, that kind of change point where I could see where the society was really alive with the idea that communication was a big part of what they do. And of course, weather depends on good communication. If you're going to give a forecast or a warning, you have to be a master communicator on some level. You're going to be on TV every day. Irene, you can speak to this. You've got to be a master communicator, and yet so many of the scientists aren't and are learning in one way or another. But their job more and more depends on communication and less on their ability to just kind of closet themselves away with some equations and a computer. And so now, 2018 annual meeting, everything's about communication. This is the second time the theme's been about communication, but I don't think the intensity of it was ever this good. It was really good.
I think with social media, it's just it has exploded. I mean, how many good scientists are out there in Twitter putting out great forecast and communicating it in a great way? Or even if they're not 100% communicating in a great way, the public is getting interested in it. So that's what I find really, really intriguing too.
Yeah, it's all the more complicated.
Yes.
And so with with social media, everybody's job is more difficult in a way, and everybody's job is easier too if you take it the right way. And yet, a normal annual meeting is so focused on very in-depth, very careful communication, scientist to scientist, that being aware of the fact the world speaks in a different way is kind of enlightening. So here we are walking around the annual meeting in Austin this year, and everybody's looking at their phones. They're tweeting each other, tweeting from the sessions. There are live webcasts. There's all this social media going on around the meeting. It's clear that everyone's getting more sophisticated about communication. And then enter all these social scientists now who are a part of the orbit, so to speak, of the AMS and its members. And that's really changed things too. That's been only really the last 15 years with a vengeance, in a really great way. This has changed the whole discussion. I know it's done it at the Weather Service too, and at NOAA. So I love the way everything's more sophisticated, more complicated, more difficult, and so people have
More
to talk
fun.
about it. Yeah, more fun.
More fun could be for some.
And on TV every day, of course, you're right. You're dealing with integrating your social media with your message on broadcast, right? I mean, Irene, that's a difficult job right there, but exciting.
Yeah. And then you have to think about how the different cultures, if you work in a diverse market, how different times also affect different people when you're giving out your message, how they're going to receive it, what they might think it is that it might not be. I mean, there's so many angles to just putting out a forecast. So it's a lot more difficult now, I think, but it's fun, and at least the social media aspect of it allows us to be a little bit more playful when time and of course the subject allows, because you're not going to be playful during a severe weather event, but the public does get to see a different side of you. And I think as a scientist, is it's important that the public sees that, hey, scientists are regular people too. I think it builds trust.
That's definitely one good reason to do a podcast too. Is going to give, I hope, over the course of these episodes that we give the scientists a chance to show their personality a little bit. That's really something they need to do, and something they're actually really good at in comfortable environment like the annual meeting. So I look forward to hearing some of the conversations that we had, and in the future conversations that we will have with people who are doing great work and don't get a chance to show how it's meaningful to them personally.
We want to thank you so much for listening to this introductory episode of AMS on the Air. We'll have a few episodes weekly on the next month or so based around the theme of AMS 2018. We'll hear conversations from Sandy McDonald, Ada Monzon, Rick Smith, Bernadette Woods, Maureen McCann, Bill Hook, and the list of amazing meteorologists, climatologists, hydrologists, communicators. It goes on. For Jeff, Irene, and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Happy weather.